On today, YouTubers, welcome to another edition of Walking Reviews. Today we're going to be taking a look at a production knife, a new model from Boker, and a collaboration with a custom maker. He is the maker behind SK Knives, Steve Kelly. So before I jump into the specs and the knife, I wanted to talk about Steve Kelly. Yes, he is a custom knife maker and a talented one, but he's probably best known, and you've seen probably most of his work in stuff like this. He makes titanium hardware for many custom makers, and in the case of this knife, he made all of the hardware for Boker. So he has a company called Tie Connector, and they produce titanium screws, clips, thumb studs, pretty much any component of the knife that isn't like the knife itself and it's made out of titanium. Steve Kelly produces it. So he's a very prolific maker, but his custom knives, which is through SK Knives, may not be as widespread. You may have never heard of the guy, but you've probably, if you're a serious collector, you've probably held a knife with his hardware in it. So let's go ahead and jump into the specs. The blade is 3 1/4 inches long of CPM 154. With the Boker very heavy stonewash, which is an excellent user finish, and this is an excellent user blade. The drop point design with the fairly high semi-hollow grind, decently thin behind the edge, and a very nice working edge put on there by Boker. Not like a mirror polish razor, but absolutely definitely usable. There's a little, you can see a little top swedge up there. Now this model is based on one of Steve Kelly's custom designs. I do not know the name off the top of my head though. You can see Boker's, this was made in the Solingen Boker factory. There's the 154 CPM. That is Steve Kelly's maker's mark, and this is where he makes knives. If you can't see that, it's Big Fork, Montana. So he makes knives in the US. There's the serial number 11. Handle, we have a titanium frame lock, again with that really heavy stonewash finish, and the length on the handle is 4 1/4 inches, so we're at 7.5 inches overall, which in my opinion is just about the perfect length for an EDC knife. Not too big, not too small. For my hands, it gives me plenty to grip onto, and it gives me plenty of blade length to tackle just about anything. This is a thumb stud deployment. The thumb stud is one-sided, much like a Sebenza, but I believe you can swap that over if you're a lefty. Unfortunately, the pocket clip cannot be swapped over, so you're kind of left in a lurch there if you're a lefty. This does run on caged ball bearings, stainless steel bearings, and the action is very smooth. Great flicker. Just fun knife to use. It's a fun knife to play with. I kind of compare it to a Sebenza on bearings, but I mean the similarities aren't so much in the way it looks, but more in the way that it functions, I guess. This is actually a really slim knife too, slimmer than a Sebenza. Even the small Sebenza I have is a little bit thicker than this. But it's got a lot of really nice details. You can see there the cutout for the lock bar, making disengagement really easy. The work they did on the handles is also very nice. You can see that it's been slightly contoured, and then they milled out sections here, which is actually gives your fingers a place to kind of grab onto there. I also really like the pronounced finger groove here, which gives your index finger plenty of purchase. No jimping, but definitely I feel very secure in this grip. Not that I use it much, but there you go. It does have a titanium pocket clip as well. Doesn't carry the deepest, but it carries decently deep. I mean, you get about, oh, I guess about a 1/4 of an inch to a 1/3 of an inch sticking out of your pocket. I'm not crazy about this 3-screw placement down there. I think they could have done just as well with 2. It looks a little bit busy for me, but hey, it definitely functions perfectly, so I don't mind. Also, the odd screws for the pocket clip that kind of clash with the custom stuff by Steve Kelly there. It slightly off color, slightly off shape. I appreciate that they wanted to go with flat screws, not rounded screws for the pocket clip, but it just looks a little odd. I don't know. As far as functionality, there's nothing I can find wrong with the knife. Very comfortable. Weight-wise, it's only 3.8 ounces for an all-titanium knife, so that's pretty good. Like I said, it's very thin, so not much real estate taken up in your pocket. It is a little, it's thin, but it's also a little wider than your standard small Sebenza. So that, you know, it does take up a little bit more room than the Sebenza in your pocket as far as this way, but I mean, you can barely feel it in there because it's so thin. The stop pin, not the most stout stop pin I've ever seen, but the lockup on this knife is absolutely rock solid. So I don't see that being an issue in the future. There's the lockup. Like I said, it's rock solid, but you're at maybe 30% or so. Aesthetically, the knife, it's plain, but that groove pad, the milled part of the handle does give it a unique look. I think if it didn't have this part milled out here, this would be a very boring looking knife. So I'm glad they went ahead and did that. Aside from the tactility standpoint, it just gives it its own unique look. Because otherwise, there's nothing that really would make this knife stand. I guess the gold hardware, the gold titanium hardware, but I don't think that would be enough. So I'm glad they did go ahead and put that pattern in the handle. So yeah, fun knife to play with, but it's definitely a user in my opinion. And as far as utility goes, it's right in between the small and large Sebenza, which I think a lot of people wish they made a medium Sebenza, and I think this kind of falls into that category. Really fast deployment on the ball bearings, and very smooth action too. Oh, it's freezing out. My hands are getting cold, so I'm trying to wrap this video up quickly. Yeah, value-wise, this knife is not cheap. It's like $280, I think. So very close to $300. But as far as quality goes, I'd put this on par with a Sebenza, and you know, the cheapest you're gonna buy a brand new Sebenza for is like $425. Actually $375. I apologize. The basic Sebenza is $375. So I think you're getting plenty of value compared to other knives out there. But then again, there are also plenty of knives with, you know, S35D and titanium that you can get cheaper. Those knives won't have custom made titanium hardware by Steve Kelly. So, you know, you definitely have to factor that in when you're talking about the value of the knife, but, you know, there you go. There aren't too many, I will say this, there aren't too many thumb stud, like flicker knives out there that run on bearings like this. So I'm glad Boker took the chance. I know most knife companies want to play it safe and just go with a titanium frame lock flipper. So I'm glad they decided to do the thumb stud knife. My fingers are getting numb, so it's harder and harder to operate the knife. But yeah, I'm glad they took the chance on Steve Kelly, and I'm glad they went ahead with this design. Really cool design, really fun. Value-wise, I'd say it's a medium. It's not a great value, but it's definitely not overpriced. So yeah, it falls right into that, I guess, mid category of value. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this one. Stay tuned, plenty of knives to review, and I'm going to have a giveaway coming up. We're almost at 500 subscribers, so we'll do one for that, and then I have a knife sale coming up as well. All right, guys, take it easy.